Hello, and welcome to Rainbows and Razor Blades Productions, where chaos reigns in all of our content. I'm Kristin. Today we're doing chaos commentary, and I will let her take it away.
Hi, I'm Kat, otherwise known as Autumn Knox on Twitter. Chaos Commentary, our show is about talking TTRPGs between myself and Kristin, who is the more experienced gamer, and myself, who is the less so but quickly becoming more so. And in this instance, we're going to be talking about being a dungeon master for the first time, which is how I am increasing my time playing games and becoming more skilled myself. But we're going to talk about tips and tricks, and if anybody has any questions, then we'll put those on air and answer those the best we can, or well, Kristin can, because she's the experienced DM here, and I am not. It will be my first time on the 30th of May. I will be doing a game of Viking Death Squad for a crew that has assured me that everything will be on fire somehow, including this one right here. So,
So, to get started, the most important part ever of DMing is finding out what your players want and adjusting accordingly. Like, you know, sometimes you get like our home games where it's mostly murder hobos and they just want to go and kill all the things.
it's true. It's true.
Others want that role play. A good blend is always awesome. I think that Viking Death Squad especially lends itself to that because to get to the fighting, you kind of need to have that role play. Like, why are we fighting?
Why are we here? Why do we want to play in this apocalyptic wasteland? There's got to be a reason.
And my number one tip ever, no matter what else you prepare or don't prepare, have at least 2 to 3 encounters for any game ready to go because your players are going to fuck shit up and go a different way than you expected.
Always have the backup plan. I've seen this in action. Like, I'll watch some of the games behind the scenes when I'm not in it, and I can just see the moment when someone kills the big bad a little too quick, and it's like, well, time for plan B. I think that happened to you. Which game was that? Was the Viking Death Squad the last one you did?
Yep, they took out Hannibal because I didn't use Hannibal like I meant to use Hannibal. But if I'd used Hannibal like I meant to use Hannibal, then Hannibal did kill them all.
So that's another thing. You have to make sure you don't overpower or underpower your
Balancing is easily one of the most difficult parts. Even with things like for D&D, they have encounter builders where it's like, oh, put in your party number and what level they all are. Sometimes when you do that, Cat pulls out a spell that fucking locks the big bad in a cage and then can't do anything for 10 minutes, I think it was.
It was enough. That's all it was. It was enough. I remember that was fantastic. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. Whoops. I could even see it on your face, too. You're like, shit.
And that was one positive about doing my first DMing in home games is that I didn't have to be like, okay, give me a minute on air and look for something new to do. Could, be like, you fuckers fucked me up, and now.
Well, see, I those I know in advance, and we've had that conversation a couple of times even before I decided to do this. So I know to have backup enemies like in waiting because of that very reason. It's not to say that I won't do some other dumb thing, but like, I was not prepared for that. It's probably mostly Skag's voices.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that one I have seen like in action, and we've talked about it on a few occasions. So that one I think I will do good with. Figuring out how to build them will be, that's a whole back end kind of thing too.
Yep, and varies depending on system for sure.
Right, right. It just so how I kind of look at that is the same way I learn like how to do all my computer stuff and all these things. Like you see the overlay and things, or like there's programming behind some of the things I have to do, and it's like, well, now I'm going to have to reverse engineer it or find a tutorial online, which is how you learn half of anything that you do on the computer, whether you go to school or not. And real story, it's like that everywhere. Healthcare too.
Oh, and oh yeah, and on the adjusting, like sometimes you gotta adjust on the fly, and like, oh, it took out half of your party. I should probably step back for a second and let you guys get a little healed up so I don't just TPK you in a one shot. Well,
Right.
fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there'll be someday some party that's just like, you know what? No, no muss. No, no. We're gonna stop here. Rock's fault. Everybody dies. You know. But we've had like really good luck with our players. I feel like we've been very fortunate to have such good players, and the crew that I've pulled together for my game, I'm super excited about because they're just a bunch of really good players that we've all played with before.
Yo, yo.
So I think that'll help too, especially they'll be like, hey, you know, nudge, nudge. This is a thing you have to do now.
Oh yeah, totally. We'll be there to be like, so this is how you do this. If it, you're like, help.
Help me! Yeah, it's funny because I've been thinking about it over the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, well, there's there's a certain element of chaos to it where you do have to kind of work on the fly, and you have to just change things like immediately. Like, oh, we're doing this now, so this is what I got to do, and it's all these things you're planning on doing are bye, and that like it's weird because you don't always equate the things that you do in the outside world to figure out, well, I can handle the chaos and work on the fly as long as I know all the parts and pieces. But I mean, given what I do working in the hospital I did, that's like you walk through the ER and you're like, well, I'm just going to go give this treatment here. Oh no, there's 3 traumas and I got to go manage that and, figure all this out all of a sudden. That's kind of how these games kind of go. It's like, oh, we're going to RP this in a bar. Oh, look, my crew is killing everyone. Shit.
And on that note, have a plan. Don't be afraid to actually railroad your team. Like, if there's somewhere specific that you want them to go and they go off in a different direction, oh, hey, look, it's in that direction now.
Yep. You just got to move it around. And remember, that's a conversation we actually had in depth when you were first running the games because you were flustered at first. Because you're like, I had all of this right here, and you guys went over there, and I'm like, just move it over there. We don't know. We have no clue.
I had the benefit of DMing for the first time, not on screen. So.
Yes, and my crazy ass is going to do it on stream for all of you to watch it go down, But you were
well,
really
one of your players
there,
will be doing that this year as well. Allison will be running games for her very first time ever. And still not sure if she's going to run it on Exquisite Corpse or over with us first, but the Monster Hearts game, she's going to do 2 different versions on both channels so that we get.
I'm excited.
That one sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, she was talking about it. I'm like, that sounds like such a good time. Let's do it.
But yeah, and on the same line of have a plan and don't be afraid to railroad, knowing the rules, while obviously I don't always look far enough ahead of them, I'm like,
they're guidelines.
Knowing the rules means that you can more effectively change them on the fly.
Yes, you make them fit and suit your purpose.
And even when you do that, you will still have people that have run it before or played it before that'll message you and be like, hey, did you know that doesn't work that way? Rule of cool, my dude. Rule of cool.
Do you know that I don't fucking care because it works better for my story this way? Yeah, the side seat DMing, but I mean, like having done other things where I'm running the show, like again in the outside world, you're always going to have somebody that's like, but you should do it like this because that's how I did it. And it's like, well, that's cool. When you run your game and your own channel, you can run it that way. But tonight, that's how we're going to play it.
And sometimes it's you can't actually find the rule you're looking for, so you say, fuck it, this is how we're doing it.
GM call, this is how it's going to go. Yeah, the players have to be as, willing to have some fluidity as the GM. It works both ways.
Yep.
So, when you're sitting in the seat of the person directing the game, yeah, stuff's not going to go the way you want. It never does, no matter where you're running something. But they have to go with it too. Like, well, you may not have seen this scene going this way because of ABC rule, but rule B was stupid.
Or like how in Immortal or some other games, I'm all like, well, this is dumb. It's gonna take too long. We're just gonna do it this way.
Yeah, sometimes you have to cut through like all the extra like stuff because sometimes when you're doing things, it's like you have to roll 6 die, add these 2 stats, and then do a little dance and pick your favorite color, and then you get to your actual result. And you don't have time for that, And
Yeah.
a format like this, it has to be, you have to keep going. You can't sit there and be like, well, I need to roll 6 things and then do calculus.
Well, and one of the rules I'm looking at, utilize game time and keep combat moving. Again, with those rules, sometimes it's just easier to say, okay, this is how we're doing it. Do it how you say it's going to be done. And then you can look up the rule later and be like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's important to keep the fun going and the game going.
Well, and that's the thing is that that's something I've noticed over the many years that I have played off and on is that there are people where you're going to sit down at the table and it's going to be a good time. You're going to have fun, you're going to laugh. Some of the rules may not quite apply, some of them may apply really hard when you don't want them to. And there's going to be other tables you sit down with, and it's like if you do not do exactly how they're saying, and they just suck the fun out of it. Like, and
Rules lawyers do suck the fun out of stuff.
as every lawyer does.
But on the same note, you do also need to know when to say no to some things. Like if somebody tries to pull out a homebrew that's so freaking broken that it's gonna make them
Oh,
over.
like my oldest. He pulled
We
that.
love you, Brendan.
I love you, my son. But when he whipped that out, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't know if he's even watching tonight.
He
But
might watch it later.
that's true. He does watch sometimes. But nonetheless, if, yeah, saying no is important. You have to have, a good boundary and a good place where you're like, no, I'm not going to do that because it's more than this particular setup is made for, or it's too overpowered, or it's really like it doesn't fit with anything we're doing, or the setting. You can't have a rocket propelled grenade in a high fantasy setting that doesn't allow for it, and there's no magical mechanic to make it. There's certain things where you're
You've
gonna
got to
have to
keep
be
the
saying no.
world real so that it's real for your players in a way that makes sense.
Right. I'm not gonna show up in Artena dressed like I'm dressed and armed like I'm in Cyberpunk. That's the two things don't mix unless you find that homebrew or the whatever that you can work off of and live in that world. But
Yep.
still, you do have to be appropriate for what you're doing.
Yep. And on that same line, consequences for actions. Somebody
Yes.
says a snide remark to a king. There's gonna be consequences for that.
They might be bad and you end up in the fucking dungeon. Or the king might have a sense of humor, like, I like you. And then things go better. But yeah, there has to be some like cause and effect. You can't just blithely go through a world being a complete fucking dickbag and like, oh hey, I got off scot free. Everything's great. I got all the money. I got the girl.
Or you let them think that, and then you take them out at the knees.
Yes. Oh, the bard's getting the lady. Oh, guess what? The lady is actually a dragon in a skin suit. Whoops, they ate your head. Or maybe just a leg. I don't know.
Let's see what else we have.
Yeah, you said you
And
found a
yeah,
whole bunch
one
of
of the
good
big
ones.
things definitely like if a player has a really cool idea, whether you think it's doable or not, you can certainly try. Let them have a chance to try. And then,
Right. Well, there's like, well, or you can compromise too. Like, I like that idea, but this part is too much, so maybe we can tone it down here, and then you can be like all crazy over here. You know.
or you let them try it and they fail spectacularly like you knew they would.
Also that, because I had one question for the my game coming up, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But then I thought about how to make it. Well, yeah, you could have that for like 5 seconds. It's not gonna be long lasted, and so but Yeah, it's one of those things. You got to have like some sort of like balance. It's everything about it is balance, and sometimes you're gonna have unbalanced moments, like me with my 8,000 skeletons when we played last time, which were entertaining.
Yes, the skellies are always fun.
They actually didn't do too bad. They weren't like too grossly overpowered. They died quick.
Yeah,
So I just like
yeah.
started amassing a horde, and I was excited.
Skellies are good as cannon fodder.
That's sometimes that's all you need to get by is a little cannon fodder. I don't
Yeah,
know if
another.
anybody's gonna.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say I don't know if anybody's gonna play that role. I don't know what the other two are doing yet. I don't know
I
what you're
haven't
doing.
decided. I might pull Mad Magni back out regardless. I'm gonna be playing a fucking crazy at. Nope, I just had my idea. I will tell you about it later.
Okay. Yay!
And a good thing to keep in mind too, that I've built into it as I've gone is plan problems, not solutions. You're not the solution maker, your players are. You're the problem child.
Well, see, and that's where it's going to be a little weird for me because I'm used to being the fixer. Like I find the solutions for all the things. That's my role in life. So mostly the way I'm approaching that is I'm going to create the problem and I'm going to see where I want that to lead them, but I got to leave the in the middle part out where they actually fix the problem. That's the part where I need to just be like, be free, you
Yeah,
know.
you definitely have some moments, whether it's because the players are suddenly quiet and not trying to role play for that moment, or the players get too sidetracked with role playing and go a little too far with it, where you feel like you kind of have to throw something you have to throw something in their way instead of trying to fix what they're doing. Because
Yeah.
I tried to do that a lot in the beginning when I was first DMing. I tried to fix what the players were doing instead of throwing a new problem at them.
Which can get incredibly frustrating because they're not going to do what you want to do because you can't like be completely obtuse about it. And you're like, no, you have to go through that door over there because the thing you want is on the other side. You can't be over here trying to fuck the barmaid. That's not how this works.
Yes, it's a collaborative story. And for those of us that have at least attempted writing novels, because both you and I have, where we have control of all the pieces.
Yeah, it's different when it's all yours, when as
Yeah.
opposed to it's like, well, I'm going to put this part right here and now figure it out. You know, because sometimes they figure it out in their role playing. I've seen like in our different streams, like the differences and the just how people come together and whatnot and move the story forward. Sometimes some need a little more prompting than others, or sometimes you just hit this wall when you're RPing. And I've noticed this: you hit this wall and you need a minute. So then that's where you need to come in, or I need to come in and be like, so now that you're here, there's this, this, and this. Or are you going to go maybe talk to them, or are you going to continue on? That's when you start needing, I see, to prompt people, because I've been kind of watching. And it's like sometimes you need to prompt people because like you get it so into something and it comes to its logical conclusion and you're like, shit, what do I do now? Do I talk more shit or do I go through that door? you know?
I
And
think
there's
one
that.
of the best examples of that recently was last Thursday on Spellburn, where the RP was amazing and things kept going and sliding. And I'm all like, all right, this person wanted to do this though, so let's go check in with them.
We
It's
were
like,
so into it.
this person actually wants to go through the door. Let them go through the door.
Yeah, or like Skag was sitting there like his character was wanting to actually just talk to the guards, and we thought they were both wanting to go at the guards, and we didn't know that we were both gonna just pick them both up and walk away with them, and so you get so into what you're doing, you're not always cognizant of all the things, especially when someone's being a little more quiet than the other, but also like. And I could see that with Spellburn, but I was like really too into what I was doing. but I
See,
could
and
see
that's
it.
why I stepped in. I was like, oh, but wait, the goblin actually was just trying to talk. He's not running towards it. That's just the gremlin. And then you
Right.
realize, oh, so you grab him.
Yeah, and I see, and when he had said that earlier on, I didn't catch it that he was trying to just talk to him. I thought they were both gonna just go batshit for the gold or whatever was over there. Um, so I didn't catch it. So the prompting helps, And I could see that in Spellburn especially because like of all of the ones that we've played or that I've watched while everybody else is playing in the background, I think that's the one we've done some of the most heavy RPing in some of our games that we've streamed so far. And I could see you just taking it, like sitting back and just watching it happen. You're having a good old time just watching us, but you did see the places where you need to interject to kind of direct us. Otherwise, we would have been RPing until like midnight.
Yeah, sometimes you have to jump in and interrupt just a little with, oh, hey, this person's trying to do this, or, oh, hey, suddenly centaurs have derailed the train.
Right, and and with that particular group, I think we did a pretty good job with it. When you'd come in with that stuff, we just took it and went. So that was actually pretty fluid, especially like when you're playtesting something like it's all new and it's still like a work in progress kind of thing we're figuring out as we go. I feel like we did pretty good at keeping it going. Like you'd give us something, we're like, okay, let's go, and then so on. But there are times when that's going to be, um,
Hi, Tim.
gee, I have no idea, Tim. None.
Oh, but yes, and building off of that, it's also good that when you have scenarios that you build in multiple solutions so that, like if it's a puzzle, yeah, there might be one actual solution, but if they go a different way and actually brain it out in a way that, okay, that could work, suddenly that's the solution.
Yeah, it goes back to the thing that from eons ago, and I was like, they don't know what you were gonna do, so you can make it that instead. you know, that's the thing is with this especially because it's a whole creative process and it is way more fluid than a lot of people think it is. When they come about it, sometimes they might even come to the same conclusion you were going to get to anyway, but they did it like way ass backwards. Like instead of going out the front door, they went around the back and like climbed through a dumpster and then talked to a hobo and then found the answer. you know but they got there, so it can be on this table over here or in that closet over there, but they go to the table, you know what, you guys did fine, take it, it's on the table, go ahead. It's those little changes. Like I find that kind of cool, actually. Like seeing how people actually get there, because like watching the games when I'm just running them behind the scenes, or when I'm even in them, just seeing like how we all go about it. Especially since we have different combinations of people for the different games too. It's cool to see how they get to that weird little point. Where it's like, I don't think this is how this was supposed to go, but it went that way, and it's kind of cool how it did.
Oh, and I don't think it'll be quite as big of a thing, especially with a one shot with your Viking Death Squad. But keep a list of names handy for NPCs. Or like I do, I'll keep up the fantasy name generator,
And
and I'll just be like,
I'm gonna need a spreadsheet. Like I actually see, you guys out there have no idea, but I am terrible at naming anything. The fact that I have come up with individual names for all the characters I've played thus far is like some sort of miracle, because Kristin mentioned earlier that we've both written novels or attempted to. I have a couple of them in progress, including one that is vast. It is like this huge world. I could make a TTRPG out of it, I think. If not, it's going to be some sort of vast world. Not one of my characters, except for maybe two, have names. And there's probably like, there's 3 or 4 main characters, and then there's like a handful of ancillary players that come and go throughout at least the part of the story I'm in. Only 2 of them have names. The main primary character of the whole story does not have a fucking name. I started this thing like 4.5, 5 years ago. No name. None. So when I started doing this and I realized I wasn't just going to be a guest player occasionally, but I was probably going to play regularly, I made a spreadsheet of names. I have a list of last names, I have a list of first names, and I have a list of names that could be either. So I have like 3 columns with like at least 15 names in each one right now. And that's what I've been going with. So like my one for Spellburn came off that spreadsheet.
a good way to come up with NPCs that you're going to remember too. Create NPCs, even if it's on the fly, based off one of your friends in real life. Give them their quirks. Then you have less to remember because it's somebody you already know.
This could be a really bad.
Considering some of the people we know.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
But see, at the same time, like, there's one NPC in Artena that as soon as I start describing them, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about.
Oh
But only
shit.
you will, and maybe a couple other people that know behind the scenes the shit we talk about.
You'll have to tell me off camera, so because now I gotta know. I have to know this and your Viking Death Squad character. Those are the two things you have to tell me when we're done tonight, because we don't want to spoil it for all of you out there. So
Yes. But always add a twist so that it's not completely that person in your real life. But like it's a really, really easy way. Like if you just assign a person you know in real life to that NPC, it's easier than coming out with this whole big list of characteristics that you have to read each time to remember what the NPC is like.
right.
My NPC list in D&D Beyond is so huge.
I'm sure I'll have to start one. Like, because I can say whatever the hell I want to say right now. Like, it's a one-off, and I'll never do it again. But by the end of the year, there's gonna be several of them under my belt. Because you know how this goes. It's just like
it's a drug.
well, it's just like when we started this channel before we broadcast Immortal. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just guest on that one maybe, and because I love Immortal, maybe I'll pop on every now and then. And now I have my own schedule. So we're gonna be real and go with the possibility that there'll be others down the road. So I should probably make myself a list.
Another thing that's a good way to visualize NPCs and make them more real to yourself, Pinterest boards. Just when you're standing in line at the grocery store or something, just start scanning on Pinterest for things that character might be like and save them to a board.
Yeah, you were showing me that. Like, you have some for like the games that you're in as characters and whatnot. Your Pinterest boards and.
Oh, I have one started for Artena and Cyberpunk too.
Wasn't there one you showed me that was like major eye candy too? I want to say there's one where I'm just like, oh okay.
Oh, it's probably one of the many boards I have for NPCs in Saturday night's game because DK doesn't know how to make an unhot NPC.
I could see that. You have a very attractive cast as it is, so the NPCs have to be. I think it's a requirement.
But yeah, like just figure out like maybe there's an actor or somebody that has the right facial shape, and so then that makes it more easy to describe them. Or look through like the funny text message things that pop up and like, oh hey, this is something that character would say, and like in a conversation, and then it helps you build oh no, you guys created an NPC for me. We'll see how that goes. But no,
it's
honestly,
it's in her backstory.
for the longer term campaigns, absolutely pull NPCs from characters' backstories. And like I did a lot of that last week on Curiosities, where I think at least 2 of the NPCs I worked on were pulled from the backstories of Danny and Izzy.
We have we have one clear one, and depending on how it comes together, the rest of the way there might be 2, but I know for sure there's one. But the way I'm thinking of certain things, I have to still talk to Tim about it. I will talk to you about it later.
But yeah, NPCs drawing from various sources and making it in ways that it's easier to remember what they're like helps so much.
Yeah, I would imagine it makes it easier to personify them when you're actually doing that on screen, as opposed to, well, this is Bob. Bob makes horseshoes. He's kind of sucks at it, but that's his living. And then Bob has the personality of Paste.
Like how I came up with Urg, the cowardly flesh, in the last Viking Death Squad game.
That was just creepy.
I do creepy well. I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
I was gonna say, why are you apologizing?
Oh, hey, there's Brendan. We were talking about you earlier.
Hi, hello, son.
Oh.
I'm trying to. So when you guys see me going like this, talking over here and this, I have the chat for Twitch over here on my left, and my camera is over here off to my right. So I mean to say hello to people live over here, but then I get confused because I don't know my right from left.
I've got chat over here. I've got stuff I'm reading off over here. Stuff I'm reading off in front of me. It's all over the place.
Yeah,
But
thankfully I have nothing on my third screen tonight. So that's one less thing. Yesterday with Basin, I had the map over here to make sure that I had it cut right the whole time when he was changing them out.
uh
Oh, Brendan fell into Final Fantasy XIV. You have
yeah.
fallen into the hole.
I had to cancel my subscription on that because I wasn't playing enough because I've been doing too much with all this. But yeah,
We
and
be busy.
another good thing with NPCs is like with Erg, where I had like did the nervous ticks, the facial things. Don't be afraid to get into it and differentiate them. Like if you don't think you can do the voices, like I know, like I kind of can do voices, but it's still just me talking with a slight little voice. Although I
Well,
did figure out voice mod, so
oh, thank goodness. We gotta try that out later then. Yeah, it was like I was saying earlier when we were sitting downstairs. I can't do voices. You get varying levels of whatever this East Coast living in the Southwest person is. That's how I was defining it earlier. That's what you get. Like I can't do other voices. I've tried and I sound dumb. I wish that my microphone had been working properly when we were doing Immortal, and I had that one moment when I was at my Himsati, but still hadn't borrowed this microphone yet because I actually had a little bit of an accent when I was in Himsati form, and then it was over and that was it. So
yeah, like, and there's one thing about, you can describe what an NPC is doing with like nervously checking the pocket watch. But if you're like, he's nervously checking the pocket watch as you describe it, then
or
it
he's
gets,
fiddling with his pen.
yeah, it's easier to visualize it for your characters or for your players as well. And then they're more likely to interact with that NPC, even if they're a non essential one, just one little easy quirk for them to interact with.
I have hats too, so I have like all sorts of things I can just like put on really quick. I was already thinking about this. It's like I can't do voices,
Oh, I
but I
fell.
can do costumes. Show and tell. What do you want? What do you want to see, Chad? I have a hair clip. I have a can. Uh,
I have a beard.
oh, I have my cool jacket from when I played Viking Death Squad. Oh, now we're gonna play dress up. Here we go.
Yeah, that's another way. Like, I haven't actually opened the thing yet. Oh, where even did it go? I think it fell somewhere. I need to clean up over here. I've got too much shit. Oh, there they are. Aha. I haven't opened them yet, but I have those like when you're in the photo booth, like hold up a mustache kind of things to help
Um,
differentiate. And we can always pull these out for you too if you'd like.
yeah, I've got hats. I've got these scarves. My Crashlands hat is over there, I think. I love this jacket.
Yeah, show it as absolutely show it as able, but just like even just the little things with hands and stuff makes it more interactive and means that the characters are more likely to respond to it.
Yeah, no, I have a few thoughts and like making it like differentiate between it's just me talking, it's actually the character and stuff. Because I know the way the way I speak, just accents aren't likely to be a thing. Maybe just weird little vocal tics about it, or like just speech patterns. But so I've been thinking of other ways to make it cool, like just whether I throw on a jacket or a hat or something, just to add to it.
I was actually very proud of myself for the level of accent I got for Hannibal in the last Viking Death
You
Squad.
did actually do really good with that. I was actually pretty impressed. He was actually like a little bit different enough. I think
Yeah.
you're a little more motivated because the voice mod did not work. I think that helped. But you did
Yeah.
good, like despite having that.
Yes, but one of the best tips, especially for the first game and doing it on stream, your first game is going to suck. Things are going to go wrong. If you go in knowing that without trying to be perfect, then you're not going to fail because you already know that things are going to go badly.
Oh no, I'm planning it for being a complete fucking dumpster fire where we just all go straight to hell. Like we're gonna, it's gonna be like a 666 right off, and that's it. We're taking a fucking bus down to hell. We're just gonna hang out there. That's it.
There is a module for going straight to hell. So
I don't know. I'm preparing for it to be like some sort of crazy shit show and just going with it. Like, it's like the first time you go do something in the hospital that you haven't done before, and it's like all balls to the wall, cray cray. It's like, well, okay, I don't know what that is that just hit my foot, but we're gonna go with this right now. I don't expect it to be pretty or,
It
you
definitely
know,
takes practice. Like even
exactly.
from the first Immortal session that we did on screen, I feel like I've grown leaps and bounds just
Oh
from
yeah.
the amount of practice I've gotten.
Well, yeah, no, you can see it. Like I can see it for sure. Like, whether I'm playing in the game or just watching, I can see like the progression. It's like comes with the progression of everything we have, like even our graphics and how we're presenting things and how you're running the games and like, there's definitely been growth, and I know like right out the gate, I'm not going to look like some like amazing DM. I don't plan on that. I'm not going to parade myself around as like, look at me, I'm hot shit, whatever. It's going to be like complete, like it's going to be crazy. I'm just going to have fun. I'm here to have a good time with this. Not let it stress me the fuck out. So
Exactly.
there's no
But yeah,
reason.
it's like there's
God, it's
actually a
hot
quote
outside.
here. There's a quote from the angry GM in here. Your first game is going to suck. You're going to be bad at it. But that should take a lot of pressure off of you. The outcome is certain. You will do badly, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, I've already prepared for the hot mess that is going to be me running my first game. It's totally fine. I'm gonna wear that badge with pride. I DM'd for the first time and it was a shit show.
But another important thing to remember is there are some things that it's good to have them make a skill check for, like especially in Viking Death Squad. Like, okay, make a wits roll to see to just give me a wits roll, and then when they tell you, maybe they see the Borgs in front of them, and maybe something has distracted them off over there. But if it's something that they absolutely need to know, don't hide it behind a skill check. Just be like, you find this.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's always situational too. It's like they want to do something that maybe is a little at the edge of what they should be able to do. So go ahead and roll for that. See if you can get there, depending on what they're in front of. If it's like somebody that may have a little bit more wit than them, go ahead and roll. I'll roll. We'll see who gets what. Not everything is a roll, though. You can't make everything a roll.
Yeah, no,
It
exactly.
takes the fun right out of it. You're always rolling the dice and like, what does it say? Oh, I can move 2 feet.
Yeah, and one of the things to remember is there's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, roll a this check, and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't set a DC, and I'll be like in my mind like 2 seconds before, okay, if they make this, like if
Yeah.
it's gonna be something really tough, then yeah, it's gonna be something higher. Like, oh, I want to do a Cirque du Soleil move to get around this bad guy, and roll me an acrobatics check.
Now I have to say, when we played Crashlands and I was able to pull off that acrobatic shit where I flew up over and onto the other side and pulled that off, I was pretty pleased with that. That was pretty choice. But I
Yeah,
had the skill and everything to do it.
yeah. Yeah, and a good way to help make things more visual is like if a player does get a fatal hit on a bigger enemy, oh, describe how it happens and give them some free reign in how the thermite brick blows this annihilator's head up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And see, and that's like, and that was something that I've noticed you've been working on too, is letting us describe those things as opposed to you describing it for us. We actually talked about it a little bit too, because that's something you have to learn how to do too, and letting go and like letting your
Yep.
players play. So I've been watching a lot. Just trying to pay attention to see like little things, even before like I had said anything about DMing or anything. I was like, how does this work? Because I can picture it in terms of what I know about managing things and managing chaos, because that's what I used to do. So how do you do this in a creative environment as opposed to something like what I used to do? Because that's way different in terms of the actual job, and some of that is letting them do the things. And that's the thing. That's where the type A person in me has to let it go. It's like, okay,
No.
you rolled really well and my NPC rolled like shit. So
And
tell
we
me
all
how
know how
you
well my NPCs roll.
your NPCs hate you because they know they're gonna die. They're like, we're gonna die, so fuck her.
Like there's fudging rolls to like if you're gonna kill the party too easily or something like that. But goddamn, maybe I need to start fudging my rolls so my bad guys can hit.
Maybe you need new dice. Like, okay, you guys are fired. You've got 3,000 dice. Pick a different palette. But
Oh,
there's something to be said of like, well, that villain rolled a little too high, and that's not going to give an outcome that's it's not going to be fun if they get this wrecked this soon. Okay, oops, it was actually a 2, not an 8. Okay, not bad. But you're behind the DM screen, so to speak, so you have that latitude, or you know I need to direct the battle a little bit this way. So this is what's going to happen over here. There's not much you can do about it because everybody's already had all their actions. Just
yep.
like this thing over here blows up and knocks you over this way towards the thing that you haven't been going to.
And in kind of the same vein is that is the yes end approach is okay, they describe something they want to do. Their rule doesn't quite get it there, but you're like, okay, yes, and you don't quite get it, but this cool thing happens instead.
Yeah, give them a little something because they came up with some cool. They RP'd it well. Little bonus things.
Yeah, because you aren't working against your players. Yes, you should be challenging them, but you're not you're not actually the enemy. Only sometimes.
Sorry,
Yes, that
you
is a
said
good
something
way
really
to make
good.
recurring baddie. Yep.
Yeah. So, for those of you that aren't in the chat watching this later, what was said is that he's rolled too well. One of our guests here in the chat, Tim, he said he was rolled too well for one of his NPCs and made them escape and become a recurring baddie. Because what would have happened is the party wouldn't have ended well and they wouldn't have had fun, presumably. So you just kind of modify it just a little bit because really, and that's is what I replied in chat, is that it's about it's fluidity and making it fun that seems to be the theme. You
Yep.
always have to be able to roll with it, and then because everybody wants to have a good time.
Yep.
Nobody wants to
It's
get
a
killed.
game. It's not life or death.
Yeah, yeah, no, nobody wants to get killed like the first 5 minutes into a game, and or get pounded into the ground with rules or rolls. You need to have space to play, and
Yes.
you know that's where the fun is when you're actually playing. You're having a good time with people. Like that's one of the reasons I have been so like enjoying this way more than I even thought I would, is that I'm having fun. Like there's a lot of work involved in this back end stuff. Like everything you see here is hours of work for me that I've put in. But then I get on screen and I'm hanging out with all these really cool people I'm just meeting and getting to know, and just being silly and like talking shit in ways I wouldn't normally, like sometimes. And then, whatever it is we're doing, that's what's important. If I wasn't having fun playing these games, I would have been like, all right, you know what? I'm done playing on screen. I'll just do all the graphics and the production stuff, and that's it. So that's what's important. That's what you keep people coming back for.
Yup. Another good thing to keep in mind for players having fun is to make sure that you know what the unique abilities are so you can provide chances for them. So, D&D, for example, if you've got a ranger in the party who's got favored terrain and favored enemy, but you never go into an area where they can utilize that, then they feel like they've wasted character creation. So, you got to make sure, oh, hey, you're actually going into this area where this is going to work. Hey, your favorite enemy is a dragon. Look, there's a dragon.
Yeah, or like, their best terrain is like some sort of rocky hill thing, and but where you are is kind of like a desert. Well, you go for a little hike just outside of town, and suddenly it's like this weird little rocky place I saw in Central Park that would fit in a desert, but really it's in New York. You know, oh, you're great on this terrain. Cool. You're going to be the one that helps the party right now. It gives you essentially give everybody a chance to shine.
Yeah, give everybody a chance to showcase what they can do and uh like make sure that you look and see, like, it's not, like I said, as a big a deal in one shots as it is in longer term campaigns, but balance and everything, balancing out the types of things that uh happen so that all the players get a chance to pull out their cool stuff. Like a bard, actually give them a tavern to sing it if
Well,
that's what they want.
I think to an extent, yes. I think though with long-term campaigns, you have a timeline that is
Yeah.
much more elongated, where everybody's going to have that time. I think in a one-shot, you really have to make sure that everybody like has their chance to shine in a much shorter fashion. Like I'm going to have 2 hours to make sure my four folks get a chance to shine, and all of you as my players are good at that. Like
Yeah,
you'll be
Viking Death
fine,
Squad is
but
also an easy one for a one shot to let everybody do that.
right. But you still, I've seen this before. Like, not really in our games because to an everybody that's been in our games has played something before. Like even me, being probably the least experienced of all of us, even though I think the oldest of most of us. Um, that there are some players I've seen that they want to shine, but because they're in a room with so many other large personalities, they don't know how. And that's where like sometimes people need to be able to, but you know what do you want to do? The rest of them are doing their thing, but what do you want to do? Kind of like let them have a moment to try and like pull it, pull their moment out of them. You know.
Yeah, and you'll get some players that are more shy. Like that's a little less common with streaming because it's mostly big personalities that want to get in there.
Right. But it's
Sometimes somebody has an off night or, they're not as talkative as usual and they kind of start to shrink to the background. So you kind
yeah.
of be like, "Oh, hey, what does your character want to do?" and, pull them back into it.
Or some of our players are more soft spoken than others, and sometimes everybody's talking so much because we're all so loud. Like, I'm loud as hell, especially when I get excited. I know that, you know. But then we may have somebody else who's a little more soft spoken. It's not necessarily quiet, but they're just so soft spoken. They're trying to say something, but they keep getting overrun by the loud folks. And sometimes you have to be like, oh, hey, I saw you're trying to do something. What is it you're going to do? Make sure that they don't feel like they're getting pushed to the back by the stronger, louder people.
That
Not
is
necessarily
one
stronger, but
thing
louder.
on stream versus in home, like at home games, is people listen to me better as the DM on stream. And if I try to interject, they stop for a minute. Whereas in our home games, there was people that would constantly talk over me, going off on tangents, and I'd be trying to get things back going, and everybody would just.
I have conversation points for that, but we'll talk about them later.
But yeah, just letting everybody have their moments, and that's also a good thing, especially in streaming. uh that the players also kind of need to know going in, like we are coming up with a player expectations document,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I'm not sure I actually put it on the list, but I think it should be, is to make sure that you're leaving room for other players. Like, don't get too into it, and then other people are like being overrun. Like, try to be cognizant of it, kind of thing.
Well, actually, I was right after we got done with Crashlands because I noticed we had some of that, like just people talking over the others, and it wasn't because we're trying to be rude. It's just
The
we're
excitement.
all loud and excited, and we were having a good time. But I was talking to Matt, aka Dungeon Matter, um, about it, and he's like, and I meant to mention this like ages ago, and I keep forgetting. But he's like, we do a thing in certain places where if someone really has something to say, we tell them just raise your hand, like you're in school, to get attention,
Yep.
to get your turn. And he said that works really well. So that may be something we try, especially when we get a bunch of us loud asses together that just keep talking and talking and talking, because that's what I do. So sometimes that may be a case. You need a visual cue to know that somebody's talking, because sometimes, like, when you are in a group of people and you're trying to wrangle what's going on or assess what's going on or just handle things, sometimes there's enough people that if you have a few people that are loud, you may be focused on what they're doing at that moment to not notice that person even trying to speak up. If they're just like opening their mouth trying to like get it, just gonna put your hand up. Hey.
I feel like I've been pretty good that if we do get to those moments that I notice the other person and be like, "Hey, what do you want to
Oh
do?"
yeah.
And
I think Crashlands was the worst one. Like, I got a little frustrated for a minute there was some, I don't even remember who was talking over who or what. It was just like a whole lot of everybody was just going kind of thing. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, it's whatever. But in the moment when I was trying to say my thing, um, because I have my moments too. I'm loud when I start talking and get excited, but then there's times when I'm reserved and I try to interject and I'm not real loud about it. I'm just like, hey, this is what, I want to say. It just depends on the situation. And I think that was one of those moments because it was just a few small things that I was trying to get out. So sometimes, like for the quieter ones or the more soft spoken ones, that may be something to, be
Yeah.
encouraging about. Like, hey, just put your hand up. I have ADHD, so I can get laser focused on whoever is being the loudest at that moment. So if you need to say something, you want to do something, you need my attention, just give me my hand up. Because I will see that and be like, oh, hey, you need me. Because I get ooze shiny. So if you give me an ooze shiny, you can get my attention. And that may be more applicable to me than you, too, because of that, because I do get that laser focus. So I may have to explain to my players that I may be like dead ass looking at one person who's doing the thing. So if you need me, do a shiny thing. Wave, glitter, I don't care. Something.
See, whereas I'm the like multitasker keeping track of everything kind of ADHD, where I can be paying attention to somebody and then hear all three conversations happening
Well,
behind me.
I do that too. I do both, but there are certain instances where I know that my attention needs to be on the person actually speaking at that very second, but then I don't realize someone else is trying to get in line, kind of thing. Because there are times when, say I have three people in front of me and this person needs something and it's important and these other two need my attention, but they may not have been trying to vie for that attention at first. So I'm focused on this person at the moment. I may know there's other shit going on, but I'm cognizant that this person needs my attention. So then I need that other person to be like, hey, when you're done, something to just let me know, because sometimes I have to forcibly focus on somebody to keep that focus. Otherwise, I'm going to know my four players are, one's scratching their ear, one's talking, one's looking at the floor, and then the dogs are barking downstairs, and the cat's climbing the couch. Those all, I have to like forcibly put myself paying attention, especially if somebody's trying to roll for something or somebody's trying to like, talk to an NPC and have a meaningful moment, so
Yeah,
that's
especially
where
with
it's different.
rolling, like, and in the combat, like making sure that your like initiative is good for that. But like, if you ask for a roll from everybody, the most natural response for people is to just yell out
Yell it
their
out.
number, and I'm try to be
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll call on you, and then give me your number,
I
because.
like I like when you do the Zoom chat, when we put it all in the Zoom chat, you know,
I
because
mean, we still want to say it out loud so that, the audience knows,
players.
but
Oh yeah, the audience can hear it. Yeah, definitely say it out loud and say it in kind of a turn. But I honestly, for our purposes of running, I liked doing that because then if you forget as the DM, you're like, no, it was this. It's right here. We can help too because we'll remember. Because I know, we roll
yeah, it's still
initiative.
helpful
Nobody
to make that
remembers.
initiative outside of the chat, because then if they get chatting and it's all of a sudden up there where you can see
Oh
them
sure,
anymore.
we've had that happen, or I'll just scroll back. But the shouting it out, like everybody talks over everybody. Number one, this happens at home. It's happened in our stream. Is everybody gets an initiative and suddenly it's like number salad.
Yeah, no,
What are
I've
you
been
doing?
trying to be with roll initiative, and I will call on you for your number, but even I get swept up in the moment. I'm all like, there go all the yells.
Yep. Like, well, now you're gonna have to tell me again, one at a time. So that's where I have a feeling that it maybe not in this game, maybe on another one down the road, but that's going to happen. And I'm going to get the mom voice. And I'm like, stop. Like, one at a time.
I still remember there was I don't even think it was in Immortal. I think it was in one of the one shots where I was like, all right, everybody roll initiative. And I hadn't even gotten the words out of my mouth. And everybody's yelling at me. I'm like,
it was one of the one shots. I can't remember which one, but I remember that fucking face, and I'm like, oh, we all went because I think I was in it, and I'm like, oh, we all went, and we shouldn't have done that.
I'm like, okay, give me a second. Because
If there
that's
was
another
like,
thing, is like you're super excited when you're playing and you're like, all right, let's get into this. We're gonna fight. And it's like, okay, but you gotta take a second so that we actually know what the order
we have to
is.
set it up, like like mentally, like the visualization I had when I saw that, because I realized when we went sideways with it, like if it could be like that visual of you getting blown back in the chair and your hair getting blown back, that's what it was. Kind of your frustration was at that moment, was it's too much.
One of the things, especially for the long-term campaigns, that I'm gonna try to instill is one of the things that Mercer does on Critical Role is, all right, initiative 25 to 20 and then 20 to 15, and then just those people say it out, and then it's less likely to have everybody trying to yell it out at once.
I think we have a. I think the initiative threshold for Viking Death Squad's lower, so. But I'll probably do the Zoom chat for
Yeah.
now, because that helped me, because that helped me help you. So I figure if it helped me help you, it'll help me, because I'll have that reference, because I have it, always have to have it up for the way I cut the video anyway. So it's like, I'm gonna do that. It's those little things, those little things, you guys, that will work for you when your brain is gonna like go sideways. Is I know already coming into this, having run other things that are not games but are chaotic, that you have to have your little things in your pocket that will help you to keep track of all of the multiple things that are coming at you. Because when you get a couple of people in front of you, and I'll have four coming at you with initiative, and I'm going to do this and that, you have to be able to parse through it. So you need to have your little toolkit ready of, how am I going to make sure I don't lose something? So
Yeah. Another thing I do, especially with the streaming, because if I look over either on Zoom or Twitch, uh, I see everybody in an order. And so then I'm like, all right, everybody's wanting to be doing something right now. Okay, you first, and then we'll get to everybody else and give everybody a turn to kind of say what they're doing. Because sometimes it's, one person trying to override everything.
right, everybody needs to take a turn, especially when you're trying to figure out where to go next. Like, and it's like, sometimes one of the characters may not have a say. Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna go along. And I've had that too. Like, two people have been like, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. What are you doing, Kat? I'm gonna go along. This sounds great.
Yeah.
Just make sure you ask the person, but they may not have all the input in the world or some RP thing. They just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go with them. That's cool.
Oh,
We
we
have
have
a
a
question.
question. Okay, I will read it out loud so that when people watch back, Skag has asked, how do you run charisma checks? I always find it interesting because it's the only checks we do backwards. We say what we want and then describe the outcome, then roll, whereas everything else, when we roll, we describe the outcome. I actually handle them all the same as far as like D&D, how that goes. Uh, I'll be like, all right, what are you trying to achieve? Like, yeah, there will be some times where it's like, all right, give me a little bit of what you're doing with the charisma check to uh make sure it's doable, and then give me the roll to see if it goes off without a hitch. So like say like with acrobatics, it's something super simple where it's like they describe what they want to do. You're like, all right, make an acrobatics check. Then you can describe, oh, you failed it, so you tried to get up there and then you got your pants stuck on a branch and you fell. With a charisma check, I try to do it the same way, where I'm like, all right, well, what is it you want to do? I don't necessarily make them act out anything that they're going to do. uh it's, where do you want to get to for this? And then they let me know, they make the roll. If they do succeed, I'll be like, all right, well, how does this look? But I try and do the how does this look for all of the checks so that players have a chance to show what they're doing. So it's not just, oh, I want to get up there, so I'm going to make an acrobatics roll, and oh, hey, I made it, so I'm up there, and now I'm going to go off and do this. Like, no, how do you want to do this? Do you run up the wall? Do you parkour through a corner?
You
It's,
give them RP opportunities.
yes. Uh, Charisma is a great one to afford RP opportunities, and I think that that's why a lot of DMs will do it where uh they just want you to describe what you're trying to do. But with charisma checks, doing it backwards sometimes makes sense. So you one of your players says, "Hey, I want to try to intimidate this guy." All right, well, how are you going to try and intimidate them? So then you can, make your yell or be like, "I'm going to walk up to him and I'm going to try and make myself look bigger and I'm going to be like, you can fuck off." And then you make the roll and you fail. And it's not necessarily that the RP didn't have its intended effect, they're just not affected in the way that you want them to be. Like, you do this and you think that you're coming up on this small little person, and then a bigger person on their team comes up behind them and it's all like, they're not scared of you, they got me.
Or you
Kind of
stutter
thing.
and stay, instead of saying "fuck you," you're like "fluffy bunnies," and then they're like, "What the fuck?"
But yeah, charisma is sometimes a little bit of a weird one, but it's still, I see any role as a chance for an RP opportunity, or uh like if you roll an insight check, it's a chance to learn a secret. You're not just like, I just want to some people are like, "Oh, I just want to insight them." But a lot of times players will be like, "I as a player don't trust this person, so I want to roll an insight check." You may not trust this person, but if your character rolls really, really low, your character trusts them. So, and a lot of that is trying to have a disconnect between the player and the character, uh, because they're very different people that know very different things about what's going on. And that's one of the things that, as a DM, you're trying to help them separate it while still getting to do the things they want to do.
Is that
Oh,
a waffle iron? I thought it said waffle loan. Some of the things that come up in chat, like I have to read them, and I'm like, "What are we talking about right now?"
yeah,
uh,
and one thing that is specific to streaming with DMing is you're going to get into it and you're going to be handling so much, you're probably not going to notice the chat.
no,
And
I barely
it,
notice as a player, so
yeah, like I try and like check in on it every once in a while, but there'll be times where like I'll look over and all of a sudden it's like 50 things have been said and people are talking shit.
you catch the one thing that's like, "Whoa!" You guys didn't happen. You're like, "The fuck are they talking about right now?"
But
No,
yeah, mostly overall, it's know enough of the rules that you can break them and have fun.
yeah. I honestly like no matter what I've ever done with uh, gaming or the idea of running a game, and like like you were listening to one podcast one day where they were like bitching about their players not doing what they want, and I got real fucking irritated because I'm like, you are the reason that people don't want to play because you're sucking the fun out of it. It's about having fun. Like at the end of the day, I don't give a shit if you completely went off the rails and I couldn't rein you in. I tried my best. You had a good time, and I laughed at your silly asses. It can't always be about just adhering like straight down the line. That's not what you're here for. So, you know, whatever we do on the 30th, we're gonna have a good time,
Yes.
and whatever I do here, it's for a good time. So, if I stop having fun, you'll all know it because then I'm gonna peace out for a while.
And the Zoom chat is always there to ask me, since I've run the game before, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah, I need to now that I've gone way the hell deep in cyberpunk, and I didn't even expect to go this deep this early. Me and Tim have like created a whole ass thing we got to flesh out so we can give to you finally. I need to sit down with the Viking Death Squad material and look that over. So there's a lot less of it than cyberpunk though. So if I read through the entire 20 pages of Netrunner stuff, I could probably get through the Viking Death Squad stuff because that Netrunner stuff is intricate, guys. It is 20 pages of just things you can do and all this stuff. And that's just for that character. And I think it's one of the heaviest ones out of all of the characters in the book. Like, I looked at being tech and there's one page. One! And
Yeah,
solo
and
is like
that's
two.
yeah, that's another thing is sometimes you just gotta trust your players that they know their skills. And like there were times where I was like, "Oh, hey, I remember you said you had this skill, but you haven't utilized it." And they're like, "Oh, I forgot about that." But there's so many of the systems. Viking Death Squad's a little easier to keep track of as far as what you have for skills and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, it's the dice's fault, Tim. Uh, but there's a lot of the systems that there's just so much
Yeah,
that
it's a
you're
lot.
never gonna know exactly what a player can do.
No, there's some systems you're allowed to be 100 and not know. Like, I look at, like, yeah, there's somebody we both mutually know that has a shelf of role playing books that's as tall as me and is probably about 5 foot wide, and it's so stuffed that he can't even fit books in it anymore. He has to like put them elsewhere now. He has so many role playing books, and some of those systems he's got like a ton of the books for, and like I'm looking at it, it's like if I want to play this game ever or like run something in this world, I'm taking one book and maybe a supplement and using that, and everything else can just like we're not using those add-ins, or if there's extra rules in this book over here, I don't even care, you know, because some of them are so vast.
Brendan did ask, how do you deal with rules lawyers out of curiosity? And I touched on this a little bit. But for example, one of the very first times I ran a D&D game, I had text messages when I was done of, oh, you forgot this about this bad guy. You forgot this. And
Nope,
mostly I
no.
just ignore it. Uh, Again, the rules are a guideline. They're not set in stone. And there are some times where I take a homebrew creature and throw it at people because they don't know what the fuck it
See,
is.
and I think that rules lawyer thing, it's from. I think that'll vary from person to person and how you handle that kind of like confrontation or conflict of opinion. When I have things come up like that where I very clearly know that it's not really that big a deal, you know, it's like it's not that important. I may say, you know what, I appreciate the input, but it really wasn't that important in this context. We're going to do it this way because that's what fits better for how I'm running it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's how you want to approach it yourself, too.
Yeah. And it's definitely different from how it was in home games to where I'm just like, I'm going to ignore it, just move on, whatever. Or if it's something that actually was useful, okay, thanks, I'll remember for next time. I've haven't really run into it with streaming. uh
No. I think most
but
people have been helpful because I've noticed in chat some people will throw some stuff at you like, oh, hey, it actually works like this, but they're just throwing it at you to be helpful because they can tell you're like struggling to find it too, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, like if I'm actively looking it up and you know it, absolutely tell me in chat.
Yeah, help a girl out.
Because
That may
some
be
of
me soon.
these are huge books and it's hard to find exactly what you're looking for even with the search function.
Or you're new to playing it because even when you ran VDS, you had not played it but a couple, like one or two times before that, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've played it the once and watched it go down the one other time. So, you know, sometimes you just, even with a book that small, I mean, it's not small, but it's not huge. There's still a wealth of material you may not know. So, those of
Right.
you that have played it, if I'm missing something, the point of something completely, yeah, let me know. I may not be able to catch it right then, and it may have to slide, but I'll know. And I appreciate like the input. But if you come at me with a rules lawyer thing and like you have to do it this way, sorry, bro.
And see, I've never have had anybody that totally and completely does that. Uh
Oh, I've seen it. It's terrible.
like I mean, I've
It's ugly.
definitely seen it happen, but for the most part, what I've been handed is, oh hey, this is just something that you should know for next time. That's okay. That's whatever. It's when they come at me aggressively of, well, you forgot that it does this. And again, that was only in a home game. So it's whatever.
I'm like, then again, it's like, cool story, bro. Thanks. It's presentation too, because they
Yeah.
essentially like the rules lawyers. I feel like come in two flavors. Some of them aren't really lawyery. They're just trying to give you a heads up. Hey, you missed this, and it can be an important mechanic if you don't do whatever. Or there's the I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but when you start that sentence, you are the asshole. So, and that's kind of the flavor that some of it takes on with some of them, and I haven't seen it like even with the fact that we did have those home games with a couple of DMs and they did kind of side see it a little sometimes. or online with our new friends that we've made over this time that just are just trying to give us helpful pointers. I have seen some that are like in the past in other games before I met you that were like, this is how it's supposed to go, and you messed it up, and like they were just like off the rails, like in the DM's face, and I was just like, I'd seen it twice, and one time I was just like, what the fuck is this? And then the next time I saw it was the same guy, and I'm like, look, you need to fuck off. They're trying to do the game the way they want. You need to leave them alone. Like, I literally like intervened because I was like, the other person was like, why are you coming at me like this? And I was like, I'm done. You
Yep.
know? So I have seen that uglier side where there are some rules lawyers that are just like, they
And I
don't care.
expect
They want it their way.
we'll probably get some of that bullshit as we get a little bit bigger and more people watch, and they're like, well, you did this wrong.
That's
Well,
okay. I'll
no,
handle
I
it.
changed it.
That's okay. I have no problem telling people to stop with my mom voice.
But yeah, and there's a difference between somebody trying to be helpful, but there's also, even if you're trying to be helpful, if the DM is trying to, like, I mean, if they're searching for it, absolutely tell them. Like,
Oh
be
yeah.
like, oh, hey, I know this, just to, clear it up quick. But if it's something where sick mom on it is the best solution.
That's right.
But there are some times where, like, I'm not checking the actual book for something. I'm trying to check my notes for, oh, hey, there was something that I had to do here that's not anything to do with it. And somebody's like trying to jump in and help me and rush me. And I'm all like, no, I'm looking for something different.
Yeah. There's that too, where they're a little eager and they don't realize what you're doing. Because they can't see.
Yeah.
You're.
Yeah. And sometimes you've got to let them learn on their own. Like with some tech stuff where I already knew what was going on and I was trying to help you just to speed it along. And you're like, I need to learn for myself.
I do. Sometimes I need to learn the hardware. I'm gonna forget. Like, I had to ask you to. You told me how to cut the video, but you were kind of do that. But we're stressed. It was our first stream. We were stressed. We were trying to get out our first stream, like behind the scenes. We were both shit shows. It was a good time. Like, we have our moments. They're not often, but we were having a moment that day. And she was trying to show me how to cut the video from Zoom into our streaming software, and she was like, do da 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 da, and trying to rush me through it, and I was like, let me do it. So I had to ask her like twice, because the first time she did that, and I was like, I have to do it myself, or I will not learn. And I've forgotten as soon as you walked out of the room, because I went to cut the second one, and I had already forgotten. So she's right, and that's an example, behind the scenes example of us, like, just trying to get shit done. But sometimes those of us that do need to learn by doing, we learn by experience, not so much as verbalizing. That's, it's the same thing with anything, but it's just it's presentation. So like when I give people advice, or I'm like, hey, this is how you fix something, and it's not like an urgent matter, we're trying to get it done, where we're just kind of like, I always give advice with the caveat that this is how I see it, or how it's been. Whatever you do with it is what you do with it. You can take it under advisement, you can throw it out the window, I don't care. But you definitely, you take it with a grain of salt. If you give the advice to the DM and the DM is like, well, it doesn't work for this game, or I'm just not going to use that right now, or if it's in the Zoom chat, or not the Zoom chat, but the Twitch chat, and they don't get a chance to answer you, sometimes it's just, it is an executive call.
Yeah.
And that is my fifth rant of the night. I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe like Chad has a Chad rant emote. Maybe we need a cat rant emote.
Dude, it might have to happen, because I mean, how often have I just been like, and here we go. If you guys have seen the meme of the starfish, and it's like this pink starfish with this big wide happy face, and it says today is the day, that is like my spirit animal meme sometimes when I go on a rant. That is who I am in that moment. I may not have meant to go on the rant or say anything, but today's the day.
Oh. But anyways, those are the big things, at least, that I think uh another example of side chats happening.
My beloved oldest tells me a thing I did not know. No,
Yeah,
you
you
did
did
not
forget to
mention.
mention.
But thank you for letting me know live on the internet. Such is my life now, guys. It was not like this 3 months ago, but this is my life now.
Oh, but anyways, thanks for checking in with us today and learning some DM tips and tricks along with Kat while she preps for her first game. I'm sure there'll be much more she asks me outside of this, but
Yeah, the game's
have a
coming up
starting
quick,
point.
so.
So thanks for tuning in. I've been Kristin, Chaos Goblin. Oh, hey, I got that colored, by the way.
It looks awesome, guys. It looks great in person. There's a picture somewhere on her Twitter. It looks really cool. Check it out.
Yeah, but you can find me on Twitter at Darth Cerelish. We do have a Twitter for the channel, R&R Production. You can catch me on other places. Go check out my Twitter. I'm not going to end then it tonight.
Save it for Thursday.
But our next show is tomorrow for our second episode of the Spellburn Earth playtest. So tune in for the funny voices on that. Oh
No,
no,
not
that's Thursday.
tomorrow.
I know
No,
my days. I thought
I
it was
need.
Wednesday.
I got too much to do tomorrow. It's our only day off.
Thursday. Come check us out.
You're killing me.
I need a nap.
Me too.
Anyways,
It's okay.
yeah.
All right. So I am Kat, as you've been listening to me rant, and I appreciate that tonight. I am also known as Autumn Knox on Twitter. I also have a schedule of things on that Twitter. Most of it this month will be me doing Spellburn for the next 3 episodes, and I think we have one more Chaos commentary this month later on. And then, of course, the topic of tonight, my Viking Death Squad one-shot. That'll be on the 30th. And that's it, because
Oh,
my schedule doesn't
and
go in then.
the next Chaos Curiosities is gonna be cyberpunk world building.
Ah! I can't wait, because we've been building stuff, too.
Okay, I
All
had
right,
to put
guys.
that in there.
A Goomba Master, yes. Yes.
Anyways, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll catch you later.
Bye! Go see what she broke.